Yuta versus Mahoraga. I was talking about this with Kyle on stream. Make sure to go check out his channel. He does great JJK content. And we had a discussion where we were arguing between Yuta versus Mahoraga. We both came to the same conclusion, but however, I believe we have differences in how we believe the fight is going. In this video, I'll be discussing Yuta versus Mahoraga. So now I'll be talking about Yuta's abilities. Yuta has immeasurable curse energy. He has advanced curse energy control, and he also has the highest application of reverse curse technique. He has great curse energy output while not on the level of Ryu, however it was stated to be slightly inferior to his. When he hits the 5 minutes with Rika, he has Rika fully manifested, he has access to his ability of Mimic Cry, as well as access to curse tools and different abilities. During the ability of Mimic Cry, he also has certain abilities such as Curse Speech from Inumaki, Shikigami from Juve, and Sky Manipulation and Thin Icebreaker from Uru. The curse tools we so far seen him use is a katana and a steel arm, so I'll be only talking about these type of things right now. Now, we also know he has a domain expansion, however we have not seen him use it. So we'll talk about now Mahoraga. So the 8-handed sword divergent General Mahoraga. So this is summoned by Megami, and so far the abilities that we see is that it has a phenomenon which allows them to adapt to any type of techniques. This was evident in the fight against Sukuna, and when he would use his cleave and dismantle techniques, he would then be able to adapt to them and begin to learn the nature of the technique. He also has insane levels of regeneration, and this was evident with the fight against Sukuna, where after using his domain expansion, he began to regenerate his body. He has a sword of extermination, which is enveloped in positive energy, making it super effective against cursed spirits. This was evident in the dialogue where Sukuna said if I was a cursed spirit, I would be in trouble. He also seemed to have high damage output with him being able to knock 15-finger Sukuna through buildings. However, that is a hard feat to quantify because at this moment in time we've seen a lot of people hit people through buildings, but I can infer he has high damage just from that fight. And now let's talk about this fight. So this fight is interesting because there's a lot of ways you can see this. I'm going to have an avenue where I think Mahoraga could potentially win. However, for the majority, I say Yuta will win. However, I don't think it's as simple as a low diff or medium diff fight in my opinion, and after rereading, I've changed my opinion as I've talked about this. So in my opinion, Yuta will win, and I'll start off with why Yuta will win. The biggest counter in terms of Mahoraga is people who are versatile. The reason why, also Sukuna being just far stronger than Mahoraga in that regard, but the reason why he was able to overpower him is he has abilities with high level damage. 2, he has versatility in the terms of his ability with having cleave and dismantle with different slashing attacks with his cleave and dismantle, as well as he has the ability to incarnate the flames that we saw. So this gave him a level of versatility as well as his elite level attack damage that he was able to overpower Mahoraga. However, Yuta, even though his Granite Blaster seems to be slightly inferior to that of Ryu, I don't know how that will fare against Mahoraga, and this is one avenue in which Mahoraga can win. Does Yuta have enough in that 5 minutes to cause sustainable enough damage to get rid of Mahoraga? And I think there's an avenue for people who disagree that he potentially does not. I mean, we've seen him with the Shinigami. I don't think the Shinigami can output that much damage to kill Mahoraga. He has Curse Speech, but we know how the implications of Curse Speech is. The stronger the target, the bigger implication it does to the individual. However, I think it would be fine for Yuta, but then once he has used it, he would have adapted to that ability. And then we have Thin Ice Missile and Sky Manipulation. These will probably give him the best usage in terms of doing damage. However, we can infer how much damage would that do to kill him. It took a full domain expansion of Malevolent Shrine to just get him to the brink of death and then use a Fire Flames to finish him. So I think a lot of people who have stated and said that Mahoraga would win, I think there is a good avenue to say that because I don't know if Yuta has the destructive capabilities from what we've seen right now. I want to preface this with what we've seen right now because obviously his domain expansion can change that, and especially with how we know he is with his ability of Mimic Cry, he could have even more abilities that we haven't seen. However, that would be the avenue in which I believe potentially Mahoraga can win. And another thing to boost Mahoraga for a potential win is the fact that he has the Sword of Extermination. What makes Yuta so dangerous is he has the ability to summon Rika with him. But now that he has a Sword of Extermination, if Mahoraga was to take out Rika, and especially as we know that even though Rika is now Shikigami, they have similar properties of the negative curse energy such as the curses, and could potentially become exterminated from Mahoraga. We know that Rika has the abilities that she does with the love beam and all these other stuff. However, Mahoraga could potentially tank this and then become adapt to the phenomenon, meaning that that ability won't affect him next. I think his Hack's ability is of such high regard that it makes him such a bad matchup for such people. However, this is where I think and why I think Yuta will win. In my opinion, Yuta, out of the very few people we've seen, is one of the best matchups in terms of Mahoraga. The best way in which we can see to overpower Mahoraga is people who are versatile and have multiple destructive abilities. The one thing that I think is lacking, I've been mentioning throughout the video, is I don't know if he has that high capability of destructive capabilities. However, I still think he will have enough to deal with him, and here's why. Before even his usage of domain expansion, I think the sky manipulation will allow him to evade a lot of Mahoraga's attacks and keep Rika from getting in big damage. This way he can continuously use different mimicry abilities one by one to overpower him at one go. So we could see him maybe spam the Shikigamis and throw them at him. He can then use the ability of Thin Ice Missile, as well as use his other abilities such as Curse Speech all in one kind of back to back to then overpower Mahoraga in a similar way with Sukuna, with how he uses domain expansion and then the flames. Furthermore, if Rika was to not get caught, he can use Rika as an aid to help with damage and to get rid of Mahoraga. This will allow him to take up some of the weaknesses that he has in terms of highest output to finish Mahoraga, because there'll be two people to be able to deal with him. And that is obviously if she does not get caught by the Sword of Extermination. This is not to the level of destruction capabilities that Sukuna has, and we saw how even his first usage of Cleave did a lot of damage to Mahoraga. However, Sukuna was toying with him, so it's not a good indication to use him as a scale, and I think Yuta for that regard can still be able to get the job done. I think even though I explained it's going to be a very difficult, and I think people are sleeping on Mahoraga and the phenomenon that he has. I understand we don't have enough feats with him because he got washed by Sukuna, but I don't think that many people have the ability to deal with somebody who can adapt to this curse technique. I think the reason why I am edging, and this will get to the conclusion of why I think Yuta will win, is because he's just too versatile to have multiple abilities to deal with him. And now that we know even with his curse beam, I think with the beam, his Shirigami, the curse speech and the sky manipulation, I think it would just be enough to overpower and maybe have the destructive force to eventually overpower through multiple techniques being used at once. But this is headcanoning, and that is one thing to take into account, because we don't know the implications of his mimicry ability. And even so, could he potentially copy the ability and phenomenon of Mahoraga? Headcanon, but this speaks volumes to the potential usage of Mahoraga and why I think it's going to be a far more difficult outcome than people are giving it credit for. I think a lot of people who are saying Yuta low diffs, I disagree. I think it will be a medium to high diff fight, and I think, listen, in my opinion, Yuta will win, but I see avenues in people who want to argue for Mahoraga in which he can win. But thank you guys for watching, and obviously like, comment, share, subscribe for more JJK content.